Fox 44 News is proud to present Veterans Voices. D&T Body Shop and Rocket Federal Credit Union proudly support Veterans Voices.
Hello and welcome to Fox 44's Veterans Voices. I'm Vince Erickson. Over the next half hour, we'll share the stories of Americans who answered the call to serve and the new missions they've taken after hanging up the uniform, from heroes in our backyard to those still making a difference across our country. Their stories remind us of what duty, service, and sacrifice truly signify. The year was 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The guns went quiet, and the world finally knew peace. They called it rather Armistice Day. But as more generations stood up to serve through World War II and Korea, the name changed. Today we call it Veterans Day, a day to honor every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, and Guardian in times of war and in times of peace. Out in the hills of rural McLennan County, there's a place where silence speaks louder than words, and a healing agent can wear a saddle. At the Cactus Rose Ranch, combat veterans and first responders are finding something many thought they had lost forever: peace. A Marine named Dave Welch started the program, healing heroes with horses. By using the bond between human and horse, he's helping those who have carried invisible wounds find their way back to solid ground. At the gate of the Cactus Rose Ranch in rural McLennan County, serene and peaceful on this day for horses and people.
I'm bringing people into my comfort zone, right?
Dave Welch, who served 9 years as a Marine and was deployed to Iraq, runs the ranch.
So we started the Cactus Rose Ranch in 2018, and we began to train horses and build a riding school. And over the years, we developed a nonprofit program through the Cactus Rose Equine Foundation called Healing Heroes with Horses, and that is directed at our veterans, law enforcement, and first responders struggling with post-traumatic stress. As far as on the Healing Hero side, we've gone through about 20 veterans and law enforcement first responders combined so far.
Megan Lawrence Hill engaging with Willow, one of those veterans, a Marine who served in Afghanistan and Iraq from 2008 through 2010, as was Nicholas Burt Adams, Air Force, served in Iraq, also worked with Willow. And Rob Bell, with his horse Scooby. Rob, an Air Force veteran who served from 2002 through 2006 and was injured during his deployment in Iraq. All three deeply affected by their service in combat, what they experienced during war, and then carrying those physical and mental wounds back home for many years now, which eventually led them here to the Healing Heroes with Horses retreat program.
Ironically, I was looking for horseback riding for my kids, and everywhere around was overpriced for very few lessons, and then I found Cactus Rose.
A friend of mine, I'm a member of the VFW in Waco, so a friend of mine told me about Dave and his ranch, and there was a retreat that they were offering, so he just told me to give Dave a call, so I called him up, and he said I'd be a good fit after he talked to me for a while.
We ended up having the kids come out, take some lessons, and we loved it, they loved it. And then Dave started this program, and I wanted to be a part of it. And that's basically how we got here.
Dave Welch understands what led Rob, Nick, and Megan here in a way that only another veteran can.
I spent almost 9 years in the Marine Corps, and as I transitioned out and back into the civilian world, I realized that it took me a long time to realize that I was struggling with things that I didn't think I was struggling with. I thought that there's no way I have post-traumatic stress. We began to speak to veterans at different events and things like that over the years. Before we even came out here, I felt a calling to do that, to share my story and my story of the process of healing.
You don't realize how much of a connection you have with her until you're gone.
Which evolved into a weekend retreat of healing with help from the horses.
Injuries can heal, and a lot of them have healed from physical injuries, still struggle with the remnants of it and residual pain, that still is there, and it comes and goes and those things. So they understand the concept of injuries healing. And when they start to think of my mind can heal, it changes their whole mindset. And so we began to share that. And we began using the horses to do it, because the horse, you can't hide anything from them. You have to be vulnerable with the horse. And that is where we struggle as veterans, as men in general, as women in general. We begin to close off and say, I don't want to share this deep, dark part of myself.
But all three veterans did, with their horses helping the healing.
Eye-opening. It was refreshing. I'm a very secluded individual, and I don't have a lot of friends. So coming out to the retreat kind of let me realize I'm not the only one out there, and that I'm not as more or less worthless as a human being as I thought I was.
It's like someone finally saw me and said I was going to be okay. It's almost like when she looked at me. In that moment, I felt like I was that, like, I could find some peace.
It actually went better than I expected with Scooby. I just didn't expect him to listen to me, because he has he has an owner, he has a person he works with all the time. And after, I don't know, maybe a few tries and listening to Dave, he was responding to what I wanted him to do. The biggest thing was getting the anxiety out.
The horse doesn't care what our past is, what our future looks like. They only care about the particular moment, and you can't lie to the horse. We spend our weekends working through that process of, we work through that process of training on the ground with the horses, with our veterans. They go through a process of learning to communicate with the horse and build that relationship, because that is what ultimately it's all about.
Thank you, Scooby, for being such an amazing horse.
Which, Dave says, can help veterans build better human relationships while honoring what happened to them that led them here to the program, and now lend their veterans' voices to help civilians have an understanding of how their combat experiences shaped them.
If you could understand, the best way would be at 17 years old, your parents take you out into the middle of the mountains and drop you for 3 months. Say good luck.
Go figure it out.
Figure it out, survive, find your way home. We'll be back in 3 months to get you.
You couldn't mourn. You had to, because the next day was another mission. So it gave you an unhealthy coping mechanisms with death, at least, is one of the biggest problems I've had.
Problems eased for Rob, Megan, and Nick through the program. They now want to use their veterans' voices to show gratitude to their horse heroes.
Thank you for being the horse that you are.
A huge thank you, especially to Willow over there. She's the dark white paint. She's sassy. She's got a similar attitude to me, but she let me know it's okay to be that way, but also open up and allow others into my life that I normally wouldn't.
That's the biggest message, is wanting to find peace in life again, hope. And working with Willow will help me see that again.
And for those who carry the weight of war, the Cactus Rose Ranch is more than land. It's a place to finally find peace. A reminder that healing doesn't always come from talking. Sometimes it comes from listening to the wind, the quiet, the gentle rhythm of a horse that helps you remember how to breathe again. Now, some memorials speak through words, but this one speaks through sacrifice. At Veterans Park and College Station, history is written in stone and honor is felt in every step. From the flags lining the trails to the wall of honor bearing thousands of names. This is where service meets legacy. Here, nestled by flags, on the 12-acre site of the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial Park, a site you can't miss.
The heart of it is a 250-ton red granite wall of honor. There are over 6,700 names on the wall right now.
At the top, a bronze sculpture depicting a soldier carrying a fellow soldier out of harm's way. And there's more.
This recognizes all the presidents of the United States that had served in the military.
Steve Beachy, who serves on the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial Board of Directors, knows this and just about everything else about this living memorial, and why the Wall of Honor and the entire 12-acre site touches his heart.
What I like to say about this particular park is this is the place where duty, honor, and country meet the pursuit of happiness. People come here and participate in athletic programs and special events and walk in the trails and what have you, and at the same time they can reflect on the service and sacrifice of all the veterans that help make that possible for them to do that. And I think that's what makes it really unique.
Unique today, with a great living legacy to keep people coming to visit for years to come.
And for every name engraved on that red granite right there, there's a story and a life that stood in service to something greater. And here, among the many flags and trails, those that stories live on, a reminder that freedom isn't just remembered on Veterans Day, it's honored every day. Meanwhile, a story that goes beyond duty and uniform, how one Marine turned his sense of service into a final mission, honoring fellow veterans in a way that's as powerful as it is personal.
You're watching Veterans Voices, proudly sponsored by D&T Body Shop and Rocket Federal Credit Union.
Every branch of the service upholds honor and duty, but the Marine Corps takes it to a different level. Courage, commitment. For Marines, these are more than just words. They're a core value and a promise that is always kept. Fox 44's Gary Ainsworth joins us now and has the story of a local retired Marine showing that once a Marine, always a Marine.
For most people, retirement means slowing down. But for one local Marine, he traded combat boots for hospital halls. And now his orders come from the heart. He's ensuring every veteran who passes away receives a final salute. It's a day like most other days for the laundry team of Ascension Providence Hospital, washing thousands of sheets, towels, and other items 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The manager of that department is retired Sergeant Major Octaviano Gallegos, but he isn't your ordinary hospital employee. He's a former United States Marine because there's no such thing as an ex-Marine. He began a program at the hospital that honors patients who are veterans, and the idea came from his own experiences returning from deployments.
In 2019, we started the Red, White, and Blue program, which is every veteran is identified upon they get admitted. At that time, I make it a point to go visit every veteran in the hospital. Once the veterans do pass away, we do what is known as a final salute.
Sergeant Major Gallegos meets with the veterans and their families when it's determined that they will soon pass away, making a personal and emotional connection with them. When the moment comes, regardless of the hour, Gallegos is there to escort them for one last time.
We go down the lobby, play taps. When I speak about the veteran in the lobby, what I use is the talking points that I use are the ones that I got from talking to the family. I think it's my obligation to let the audience know what that veteran did in their background.
For the families, that final moment means everything.
It was the most beautiful thing I ever had seen. They treated him with respect and everything. They put a flag over him, walked from his room all the way through the whole hospital, and then when they got to the very end, they played taps.
Gallegos' dedication to a passing veteran doesn't stop at the final salute. The veteran's name becomes a permanent fixture in an area outside the hospital that Gallegos calls sacred ground. It is a veterans memorial with all branches represented and bricks engraved with the names of the veterans Gallegos has honored with the final salute. Today, David Sutton came from Plano to put the final piece in place honoring his late father, the first Korean War veteran, and Gallegos' 78th final salute.
I talked to David yesterday and I says, where do you want me to put the brick? And he says, it doesn't matter where. So I did some brainstorming last night. It kind of kept me up a little bit last night to find a perfect spot. Don was a Korean War veteran. And I know that place was real cold because I've been there before. And I'm thinking, I'm going to put the brick where the sun shines the most to keep him warm.
Gallegos is there day or night to escort them for the last time. As long as he's there, he says every veteran will leave through the front door with dignity, honor, and respect from one vet to another.
I get goosebumps. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Just the way the respect and the dignity and everything, the way he was treated, and then the way when he passed.
When I see the Don Sutton's Korean War, how can you not pay respect to these people? How can you not do it? We'll be fools not to pay respect to these people. And every other veteran. As long as I'm here, I'm telling you, that every veteran will lead to the front door. I don't care what time it is. I don't care what day it is. We owe it to them, and that is connection I have.
And for the men and women raising their right hands and swearing the oath to serve, wearing the uniform is more than a choice. It's a calling, and with it is the embodiment of what every veteran knows deep in their souls. Service to others does not stop with a discharge.
Before he ever wore a uniform, a Texas boy faced a different kind of battle. One fought in the fields, not on the front lines. How those early struggles shaped a hero, here on Veterans Voices.
You're watching Veterans Voices, proudly sponsored by D&D Body Shop and Rocket Federal Credit Union.
Our next story begins in the dusty fields of North Texas, where a Texas boy learned survival before he ever learned to read. When his country called on men and women to serve, he answered. And in just 3 years, he rose through the ranks, became a legendary soldier, a name known by Americans from coast to coast. That name? Audie Murphy. And his legacy lives on today. Fox 44's Gary Ainsworth joins us again. And what we didn't tell you before is that Gary is an Army veteran himself and a North Texas native. So who better to tell the story of the U.S. Army's most decorated soldier than one of their own? Gary, thank you for your service and for bringing us the story of a native Texan whose life almost seems too extraordinary to be true.
Thank you, Vince. For me, this story is personal because Audie Murphy isn't just a name in the history books. His story is Texas strong and a soldier story. He was born in North Texas cotton fields of Hunt County, raised by dust, sweat, and responsibility, where hard times and hard work forged the boy into the man he would become to become the greatest soldier in U.S. Army history.
Coming ashore in Sicily, he didn't come ashore with the first wave. He came ashore later that morning. The first wave came across about 6 a.m. He came over about 10 a.m. The beach was pretty clear, but this was the first time he had seen a battlefield. And he thought it was just incredible. I mean, bad.
Sicily and Italy would show Audie Murphy the horrors of war. And even though he'd become surrounded by dead soldiers from both sides, Murphy developed a personal plan of action for himself to use in every battle he would encounter throughout the war.
He had this sense of, this is what I have to do next, and I'm going to do this, and nothing else is going to matter until I get this next step done.
While fighting in the western mountains of Italy, Murphy contracted malaria. Yet despite such setbacks, he continually distinguished himself in battle. Between his landing in Sicily and his arrival into France, he'd earned almost every combat medal the Army had, as well as advancing from private to second lieutenant by the end of 1944.
Going from private to second lieutenant in a period of months happens only if everybody above you is being killed. You know, and he proves himself time and time again, and he proves his loyalty to his unit.
However, his greatest feat had yet to come. Murphy's daring exploits seem almost like a video game storyline. While there are no official records of his confirmed kills, that number is said to be higher than 200. His most heralded act of courage occurred in January of 1945, near the French town of Holtzwihr, while under a heavy attack from the Germans. More than a dozen witnesses confirmed that Lieutenant Audie Murphy climbed on top of a burning M10 tank destroyer and, using its .50 caliber machine gun, held off an entire German infantry company as it desperately tried to take him out. For an hour, he held off the enemy force single-handedly, fighting against impossible odds. Even after reaching safety, he refused to be evacuated from the field and instead rallied his men in a counterattack that drove the Germans back. His actions that day would earn him the United States military's highest award, the Medal of Honor, solidifying Second Lieutenant Audie Murphy as World War II's most decorated soldier and a true American hero. After surviving the battlefields of World War II, Audie Murphy came home to parades and was seen by Americans as a national hero. He soon found himself in the bright lights of Hollywood, starring in numerous westerns, before taking on one cinematic role that no one else could play, himself. World War II ended in June of 1945. For Lieutenant Audie Murphy, the arrival home came with the fanfare of a hero, but he would later admit he was unsure of what coming home meant to him, and it scared him.
Well, coming home again, I started think about home for a change, which we didn't dare think of before because, as you know, you live from day to day, minute to minute in most cases. And suddenly I was a little frightened. Strange as it might seem, I didn't know what I'd do when I got home, and I suddenly felt just a little empty inside and a little lonely about the whole thing. Although I was very happy the war was over, I suddenly didn't feel that I had a home.
But why would a man so heavily recognized for his bravery in combat be afraid of coming home?
All of the actions that he took that transformed him into a hero made it largely unlikely that he could live a normal life after that.
But his photo on the cover of Life magazine would open the doors to Tinseltown.
He wants to do whatever he can to move forward with his life, but still take care of his family, his siblings. And that's why he decides to go to Hollywood to try his hand at acting when James Cagney sees his picture.
He ended up meeting James Cagney, of all people, and he was like, you know what, you kind of have a presence. Why don't you come out to Hollywood and see what happens? So he's like, well, why not?
And just like his childhood and Army career, Hollywood didn't start off with red carpets and the movie star treatment.
He had a really hard time breaking into the business, which probably almost everybody does. And he was living on somebody's couch.
For what seemed to be the first time in his life, Audie Murphy was at the brink of giving up.
The next thing you know, he's in the star in movies. A lot of the Westerns were really common.
Audie Murphy starred in more than 40 feature films, such as The Red Badge of Courage, No Name on the Bullet, and
of course, the most famous movie he's ever done is To Hell and Back. That's the movie of his life.
Imagine Hollywood telling you that they wanted to make a movie of your life, which is incredible on its own, but then also wanting you to star in the film as you.
We want you to play you, and we're going to subject you to all the same scenes and all the same terrors, you know, as best we can replicate it.
The film, To Hell and Back, was based off Audie Murphy's autobiography. It was a critical hit and was arguably the best film of his acting career. But reliving moments in his wartime past were potentially traumatizing.
He dealt with the potential trauma of filming To Hell and Back by getting in the weeds with all the details.
And it was those details that would be the tipping point in his personal life and his struggles with the war's mental toll. Well, after decades of trying to find peace, both on screen and off of it.
Cases. And suddenly I was a little frightened. Strange as it might seem, I didn't know what I'd do when I got home, and I suddenly felt just a little empty inside and a little lonely about the whole thing. Although I was very happy the war was over, I suddenly didn't feel that I had a home.
But why would a man so heavily recognized for his bravery in combat be afraid of coming home?
All of the actions that he took that transformed him into a hero made it largely unlikely that he could live a normal life after that.
But his photo on the cover of Life magazine would open the doors to Tinseltown.
He wants to do whatever he can to move forward with his life, but still take care of his family, his siblings. And that's why he decides to go to Hollywood to try his hand at acting when James Cagney sees his picture.
He ended up meeting James Cagney, of all people, and he was like, you know what, you kind of have a presence. Why don't you come out to Hollywood and see what happens? So he's like, well, why not?
And just like his childhood and Army career, Hollywood didn't start off with red carpets and the movie star treatment.
He had a really hard time breaking into the business, which probably almost everybody does. And he was living on somebody's couch.
For what seemed to be the first time in his life, Audie Murphy was at the brink of giving up.
The next thing you know, he's in the star in movies. A lot of the Westerns were really common.
Audie Murphy starred in more than 40 feature films, such as The Red Badge of Courage, No Name on the Bullet, and
of course, the most famous movie he's ever done is To Hell and Back. That's the movie of his life.
Imagine Hollywood telling you that they wanted to make a movie of your life, which is incredible on its own, but then also wanting you to star in the film as you.
We want you to play you, and we're going to subject you to all the same scenes and all the same terrors, you know, as best we can replicate it.
The film, To Hell and Back, was based off Audie Murphy's autobiography. It was a critical hit and was arguably the best film of his acting career. but reliving moments in his wartime past were potentially traumatizing.
He dealt with the potential trauma of filming to hell and back by getting in the weeds with all the details.
And it was those details that would be the tipping point in his personal life and his struggles with the war's mental toll. Well, after decades of trying to find peace, both on screen and off of it, Audie Murphy became a symbol of heroism. But he struggled for years with the same way many veterans face long after the war ends. His final chapter wouldn't play out in Hollywood, but high above the Virginia hills. On May 28, 1971, the skies over Virginia turned heavy with fog and rain. The twin-engine plane carrying Audie Murphy, America's most decorated soldier, was on his way to Martinsville for a business meeting. It never made it. The aircraft struck Brush Mountain just outside of Roanoke, killing Murphy and everyone on board. 8 days later, he was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. Today, his gravesite stands among the most visited in America, a fitting tribute for a Texas hero and an American legend.
And for those who've sacrificed so much, we have a final message to share for those who've given everything to serve.
You're watching Veterans Voices, proudly sponsored by D&T Body Shop and Rocket Federal Credit Union.
If you're a veteran or your loved one is a veteran and need to talk to someone, help is always here. Just dial 988 and press 1, or look at those text numbers right there. Write them down or take a snapshot of them. You can text 838-255 or even chat confidentially online at veteranscrisisline.net. You'll connect with people who understand, trained responders who know what service and sacrifice can mean. To all of our veterans, thank you for all of your sacrifices. We salute your service. We are proud to have heard from the voices of veterans who proudly served our country.